Namaste and warm welcome in this short presentation. I'm Thirbahadur Khadka, Nepal MPhil scholar at Nepal Open University, third semester. This is the part of an assignment of research seminar for the scholars of English, and now I'm going to share my ideas and understanding on latest review. Welcoming all of you again in this presentation. I would like to begin with the statement by Confucius. Confucius says, "A man who reviews the old so as to find out the new is qualified to teach others." It signifies how much important the act of reviewing the things, reviewing the works, scholarly activities done in the past. It is a short presentation. I'll be limiting very briefly myself on 5W in literature review, then the definition, or let's say the uh, common idea of what literature review is, its purposes, purpose, then the way of beginning to review the literature, good literature review versus the poor, some of its types, editing and rewriting in literature review, and synthesizing and evaluating the information, quantification in literature review, particularly in the context of MPhil, and the work cited list. Now, I'd like to begin with 5W in literature review. 5W means here what, why, when, where, and whom, or for whom. Okay? What is related to know the existing subject. Why is related to find the research gap, and of course the point of departure for the present study. When means basically literature review is done after identification of the research problem and before writing the synopsis. Where literature review can be done by obtaining the materials, scholarly works, either in physical library or in online library, that is from library or the internet. And it is basically done for getting the guidance of our present research. So, what is literature review? Literature review is, in fact, this is an unavoidable part of research. And in this process, we systematically review the scholarly works done or published in the past in the area of present research or the topic that we are going to study on at present. Various studies and researches could be found in the area of the present study. And as a researcher, we have to go through those various, let's say, studies and the researches, so that we not only know what has already been studied, but also can set the point of departure for ourselves. Premraj Panta, the professor of management at Tirvan University, Nepal, he has stated that a critical review of the literature helps you to develop a thorough understanding and insight into the previous research work that relates to your study. Means, by going through the extensive process of literature, or let's say reviewing the literature, we can get the various ideas and develop understanding as well as insight into the previous researches which are done in the area of our study, of our present study, and of course get guidance regarding how we can conduct our study at present. Um, Panta has written a text, Social Science Research and Thesis Writing, which is very important in the case of understanding different dimensions of research, such as literature review. In that text, he has stated four phases of literature review: locating, obtaining, reading, and evaluating. He argues that okay, so as to locate the literatures which are supposed to be reviewed in the process of research, we can consult encyclopedia, card or computer catalog, journal, Okay? Indexes, international bibliographies. We can obtain the scholarly works from library, online sources, CD-ROM sources, or other various sources also. We have to efficiently and selectively read, because reading all the things of the collected or obtained material may be impossible. So we often have to be selective so as to read only the important parts which are most relevant to our present research. We have to keep track, and of course the references, annotate the important things, important lines, or important ideas that we read, that we evaluate in the materials that we consult, and of course develop a structure. We have to critically evaluate them. Content analysis, criteria of review, critical review, style and tone, meta-analysis, these various things have to be done. So by going through these four phases, locating, obtaining, reading, and evaluating, literature review can be done. This is a very much important question, that what are the various purposes for which literature review has to be done. On the basis of the analysis of different documents, I came to the conclusion that literature review, okay, does have many importance. There are various importance for which we have to conduct literature review. So the basic purposes are summarized as follows: to know what has already been done in the topic or area of presented research. To gauge means to measure the area of study by knowing different aspects of previous studies. To improve the knowledge and critical understanding on the subject of the study, including the structure of the subject, and enhance vocabulary. To avoid the needless duplication of the research, and of course prevent the wastage of time, money, and resources, and of course place the present study in a historical context. It shows, this is a very important point, that if we properly go through literature review, we know what is already done. If we do not do so, then what happens? We may repeat the same thing. We may go for studying the same thing that is already studied. Then what happens? It becomes the wastage of time, wastage of money, wastage of resources. The findings will be insignificant, because whatever we will find, that will be the thing, that will be the stale thing, means the previous researchers or the scholars, okay, might have already investigated it. Then what will be the significance of repeating the same thing? So in order to avoid that very needless duplication of the research, we have to go through extensive process of literature review. Similarly, literature review does have another purpose, that is to develop the comprehensive and theoretical framework from which we can develop the hypothesis, rationalize the significance, and set the limitation of the study, limitation and delimitation of the study. It helps us to design our entire project. We can set different variables and decide which variables to include. We can decide how to measure them, what techniques to use, what procedures to follow, and so on, by the act of extensively reviewing the previously done researches or the previously published scholarly works. Another purpose is to know the chronological development of the knowledge on the subject, find the research gap, and set the point of departure for the research. For these various purposes, we have to do literature review very properly in a systematic manner. This is another question: how to start literature review, and in fact, this is also an important one. We need to prepare the plan in advance, along with setting the time limit. So, very in the very beginning of conducting literature review, we have to make a plan. The plan should be prepared in advance, and we have to set the time limitation. It might be some weeks, or maybe a month, or like this, depending upon the area of study, and okay, the the issue. If it is a small issue, then we may not need uh, okay, weeks or months. But if it is a big issue that we are going to investigate, then it might take a month, or maybe a couple of months or something like that. And another important thing in literature review is authors' references also could help us getting relevant sources. So while starting literature review, we can also track the sources uh, on the basis of some authors, some scholars reference list, because important materials also can be tracked. They can be sourced by seeing which materials, which works the previous authors have cited in their publications, in their researches. Likewise, we got to synthesize and evaluate the information by identifying various objectives, methods, results, and conclusion. And we also must organize the chronology of the development. If the problem has a historical background, for example, we can begin with earlier reference first. Means reviewing that very document which was let's say published earlier. So earlier reference first. Likewise, we must always refer to the original reference, because there can be multiple versions of references, and it's better to consult the original one and summarize the important aspects along with sufficient information for in-text as well as in-text citations. Because if we go on preparing the works cited list along with let's say reviewing the literature, that will be helpful for us. A good versus poor literature review. There may not be, let's say, clearly separated demarcation between what can be a good literature review and what can be a bad literature review. Bad literature review. But depending upon my understanding, I have tried to see differences between these two things. Okay. A good literature review, in my understanding, provides a synthesis of the existing literature. It brings a critical evaluation of the obtained materials. It consists of an appropriate breadth and length. It maintains clarity and conciseness, uses rigorous and consistent method of reviewing. Unlike this, a poor literature review takes place just in annotated bibliography. It is confined to the description of what is there in the reviewed material. It is narrow and shallow. It is confusing and unnecessarily lengthy. It is contracted in an arbitrary way. Professor Panta argues that there are basically two types of literature reviews. One is a survey of a research article, and for him, it is an integrated research review which examines the previous research works in the area and identifies the existing relationship among the variables. Another one is a conceptual review, which means a theoretical review that examines the various concepts and theories that have been put forward, which also forwards an argument to which is the most relevant, often giving an insight into the issue being examined. However, some other scholars also have talked about other various types of literature review. And in this, what we can say that there can be basically six categories of literature review: argumentative, integrative, historical, methodological, systematic, and theoretical. Then what is argumentative literature review? Argumentative literature review is in fact okay uh, value laden in nature. It is like value laden in nature. It examines the literature selectively for either supporting or refusing an argument. So some argument is already there. Okay, some certain philosophical problem is already there, and we have to sometimes support it and sometimes oppose it. And in argumentative literature review, we review the literature, okay, either for supporting the argument or in opposition of the argument. So it moves ahead in that very line. There is another one that is integrative literature review. where we synthesize the representative scholarly works available on the topic under study in an integrated way, which helps us to generate a new framework and perspective on the research topic. So whatever is reviewed helps to address the hypothesis. Another type of literature review is historical. Historical literature review focuses on the examination of the research based on certain temporal framework. So temporal framework means historical one. The time is very much important because it is history, historical period, temporal period. So temporal framework is developed here. By dealing with the issue, concepts, theory, and phenomena, it traces their evolution. Another type of literature review is methodological, that highlights the method of analysis. Another one is systematic, okay, that deals with observing the evidences significant enough to clarify the research question. And the final one is theoretical, that examines the theory undertaken for the research. Editing and rewriting also does have very important role in literature review. Actually, the major target of literature review is also to have an effective communication and efficient answering of the research question. Okay, which can be supported by the proper way of editing, which means a careful scrutiny of the collected materials. And editing can help us to make our work clear, concise, and consistent. And thus, the experienced this might be the reason that the experienced writers always give emphasis on the extensive process of literature review. While editing, the use of unnecessary jargons, critical comments, as well as highly technical terms have to be removed. They have to be avoided because the use of such terms, such jargons, okay, may lessen the strength of our paper, strength of our work, our publication. Similarly, okay, in this very process, in this stage, let's say editing and rewriting stage of literature review, what we can do, we can also consider the scholarly comments and the suggestions of the experts, because we can make our literature review more organized, more relevant, and more effective on the basis of the consideration of such comments and experts suggestions. Multiple versions have to be prepared because uh, I mean we can go on writing and rewriting. So first draft, second draft, third draft, maybe, okay, until we become satisfied, because only the first and the single draft may not be sufficient, or it does not become sufficient in this type of scholarly work. We have to, okay, our review also should not be restrained, should not be restricted to linear fashion from start to finish. Rather, forward as well as backward movement also can be undertaken, synthesizing and evaluating the information. Literature review demands extensive reading, critical thinking, and rigorous writing. So this is very, very important. We have to read a lot, we have to think critically, and we have to write rigorously. Only then our act of reviewing the previously published or previously done researches becomes significant, meaningful, and fruitful. We have to obtain the existing literature, generate ideas from them, classify them, and synthesize them, locate the trends, significance, structure of the literature, and strategies suggested, aid this keyword, okay, used, jargons introduced, theoretical models followed. Focus on such things. Similarly, we have to focus on the conclusion drawn by the author, and we have to also consider our estimation of the or the perception. We can say that, we cannot say that, okay, the number of reviews should be limited within this and this, or 30 or 40, 50 or 60, 70 or 80 or something like that. However, okay, uh, it seems appropriate if The scholar of MPhil can review very systematically from 30 to 40, okay, uh, scholarly works consisting 50% recent, that means, okay, published within 10 years, last 10 years period. Then 50% review should be international, that is outside the country. 50% review should be should be, okay, taken from quality journals or working papers. In order to prepare this short video presentation, I consulted these documents, and often I cited them. Okay, so these are listed here in the works cited list. And okay, thank you very much for observing, or let's say watching this video. Thank you and namaste.